I click twice. We'll start from the
No,
beginning.
it is fine.
Yeah. Okay, we'll remove the slide. So I'll start with the introduction. Thank you very much, viewers, for letting me know. I had clicked the start slide and it showed, but it had not started. So I'm very, very glad to welcome all of you to this Varun Kapur show. And today, as you know, the topic is tobacco and smoking addiction. Welcome to this show, and it is my pleasure to host this show on behalf of Rotary Club of Addiction Prevention and Rotary Club of Mumbai Elite from Rotary District 3141, India. I'm very thankful to Varun Kapur for this platform, which he has built for more than 10 years. What was the genesis of the series? For those who are new to this particular series, let me just tell you it all started when we lost our dear Sushant Singh Rajput. It created a tsunami of sorts. Everyone knew he was drugged without his knowledge, and he was gaslighted and finally extinguished from the face of this earth. We are all still fighting for justice, and for all of us, he was not just an actor. He was a thinker, artist, and above all, a philanthropist, someone who loved other human beings. So a huge movement started, that is Justice for SSR. That brought us together. Then the menace of drugs became clear to us. And many of us in this movement got into social media for the sake of that. And we became active and we also became victims of cyberbullying. Then we realized that we must start an awareness series so that we really create Swachh Bharat because we care for our nation, where people have clean, healthy habits and clean India free of all kinds of addictions. Varun Kapoor is totally invested in this, and so we are here. Viewers, I'm very delighted to introduce Dr. Nilam Gada. Dr. Nilam Gada is the president of the Rotary Club of Addiction Prevention. She is a cosmetic dental surgeon and a tobacco de addiction specialist. She is consulting tobacco de addiction specialist at the Asian Cancer Center, Kemps Corner, Mumbai. She has done advanced education in dentistry from San Francisco, USA. She is an oral cancer geneticist from Indian Academy for Clinical and Dental Genetics. She is a tobacco de-addiction specialist trained from National Drugs Dependent Center from AIMS and ICMR. She has also done tobacco cessation training program from Gujarat University, to global tobacco control course from John Hopkins University, United States. Her achievements are so many. I'm listing just a few of them. She's a frontline COVID warrior, head in charge of COVID Care Center, Marine Lines, throughout the three waves. She has been in charge of teleconsultation program during COVID times for four different NGOs. It was in fact her brainchild and she started it. She was appreciated and awarded by Honorable Governor of Maharashtra, Shri Bhagat Singh Hoshiari, for her contribution during the COVID times. She's a certified transplant coordinator. She is the president for programming for a health based channel called 24 by 7 Wellness. The channel is called 24 by 7 Wellness. She also is highly educated on organ and tissue donation, and she's a consultant on that also. And she is also highly qualified to talk about oral cancer and nicotine addiction. Proud of your achievements at such a young age, Dr. Neelam Gada. And we start the session with a very hearty applause. So we'll start now the session with straight away the
Thank
questions.
you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome and a kind introduction. Girija, I
Thank
am
you.
more than honored over here and thanks to you for inviting us and helping us spread this awareness and do this noble cause. It is indeed our privilege to be able to have such a huge platform to spread the awareness.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neelam. It is my pleasure. And Varun Kapur also endorses this. Now, you have had so many years of practice. What are the most common and uncommon reasons that you come across for people smoking or consuming tobacco? How does tobacco addiction start?
Can you share the slide?
Yes, I will. I
So,
will.
like most of the diseases that we come across, that has stress as most one of the most common reasons, and it is true even for tobacco. So I believe stress nowadays is more common than the common sense. Stress is seen at, even in children, they have stress for exam. During their career life, they have stress either to get job, or if you are into a job, they still have stress. If they are in the job, then they are stressed that they might be fired. Even in different verticals of relationship, there is stress in marriages and other relationships. So I believe the most common reason that people come to me is stress. Stress can be at any level, at any of any degree. But I usually tell my patients that the stress is going to stay until the end of your life. That doesn't mean that you start consuming something which is so poisonous. The second most reason I come across is why people get into tobacco addiction is peer pressure. So if you ask anyone, even if he or she is 60-year-old or a 40-year-old, if you ask them to retrospectively go back, in flashback and tell us that why did they get into smoking or into tobacco, 80 to 90% of them will tell you that they started it because of their friends, or because of in their teenage life it was their whole group was into this. They don't wanted to miss out on anything. They wanted to bond, or they did not want to be left out, and hence they got into this, and they preferred to continue whenever, and that time they did not realize that this could end up into such severe addiction. Other reason which I very commonly come across is because of constipation. People believe that without consuming tobacco, they will not be able to have proper bowel movements. That is just because the system has got adapted to tobacco. Now I'll tell you few of the uncommon reasons that I come across. The most favorite one is losing weight. Yes, true. I'm sure not many must have heard this, but smoking helps to reduce weight, but in a very unhealthy way. Please don't try it. It also helps to burn calories, but it is an appetite depressant. It reduces your appetite to a very great extent, and hence the advertisement companies or the tobacco lobby use this so very much in a smart way, that they use this to present or to probably manipulate women to get into tobacco or get into smoking for that matter. There were certain brands that were specifically aimed for women. They would name them as slim cigarettes or lighter cigarettes and stuff like that. And unfortunately, under the pretext of gender equality or women empowerment, now male and female both are in par with each other when it comes to addictions like this. Another very uncommon reason we usually find in truck drivers and watchmen, where they consume tobacco continuously in order to stay alert or awake. We also have seen that teenagers or young adults, they quite often get into mimicking their real model, looking at them, looking at these celebrities, these personalities, and to increase their own style quotient, or to act like a cool dude in front of few girls. They try to get into smoking to appear very cool. I would be really glad if these role models, or real models as we call them, would actually impart a good awareness education regarding the hazards of tobacco, rather than using them in front of the entire nation. We also come across another reason where tobacco in the form of a mishri, which is like a cream-like paste, is used in the form of a toothpaste in rural India. Uh, Another reason is family culture. Patients very openly tell that everybody in my family smokes, or everybody is consuming tobacco. So what? Because they tell that even my grandmother, my parents, my siblings, everybody is. It's a family thing, like it's a tradition. Like there is no taboo at all. They openly talk about it. So in many cases, it is just the family culture that there is that the way we keep soft. In the same way, they have tobacco lying all around their house. However, unfortunately and sadly, the most uncommon reason, although I would say the sad reason, is when I came across a patient who, again in rural India, during my medical camp in one of the most rural areas in Maharashtra, where the mother told me that I feed a little bit of tobacco at regular intervals to my 6-year-old child in order to suppress the hunger, because we do not have enough food to feed her the entire day. So
That
this
is
was like a shocking reason for me that, as I mentioned, it is an appetite suppressant, and people use it in different ways. Yeah.
yeah. So, there is a message, no sound at all since 3 to 4 minutes. Write this for your idea. So, is others are able to hear it, Kishorji? So, please check your line because I am getting response that others are able to hear it. So, please just check it at your end. Thank you so much for that input, however. Yes. So, then Dr. Neelam, it is really so very sad that organizations, so many brands, they promote it that for the sake of becoming lean or maintaining a zero figure, they advise people to go for smoking. And naturally, being a appetizer suppressant, then people are not getting the required nutrition because they don't eat right, and then that leads to different other health issues. So that is really very sad, absolutely sad. Now, I just also want to know what are the various uh, the tobacco addiction, what kind of hazards are there because of tobacco consumption?
So, can you please show the slide?
Yes.
So regarding the hazards, I would first like to draw your attention to the reality figures and facts that tobacco in reality is the number one killer in the world. 40% of deaths happening in the world all around are related to tobacco. Also, tobacco is the only legally sold consumer product which actually kills the consumer if used as directed by the manufacturer. So if you see any food items which are sold, they actually have to go through this drug administration, FDA, ISO approvals and all, and only then it can be sold. Knowing that tobacco, especially the smokeless one, the ones which are chewed or stuffed or not, they are consumed, they are eaten by the consumer, and hence it has, how I don't know, but got these approvals in spite of knowing that tobacco does kill almost 50% of its users. Tobacco is one of the largest and the single most preventable cause of death and disability in the entire world. Coming to hazards, I am sure everybody knows that tobacco causes cancer. That is the most common, common hazard that people tell me when I ask them that, do you know what tobacco can do? Among cancers, there are variety of cancers, from oral cancer, stomach cancer, lung cancers, blood cancer, and many more such like that. Different kind of cancers can happen. But please know that cancer is only tobacco cannot cause cancer. There are many other factors that can cause cancer as well, but tobacco increases the susceptibility almost by 400 times. Uh,
400 times.
Yes, there are certain kind of tobacco products, especially gutta, because it is mixed with sometimes with slake lime, sometimes with erica nut. So these almost double up the absorption power and as act, or I would say act as a catalyst for the tobacco to increase their susceptibility to making more defects or disease in the body. Other than cancer, we also come across many patients who have brain stroke ending up into paralysis or heart disease. We often find many people undergoing heart attacks at a very young age. Uh, Quite often, these are related to the previous consumption of tobacco in their early teens or late as well. Also, there is probably this one hazard which people are not aware is the reproductive health of these young adults who very often get into tobacco, smoking, or other consumptions. Reproductive health, by that I mean that there is a very drastic reduction in the sperm life, sperm mobility, and sperm function for men In females, it causes vaginal bleeding, placental abruptions, repeated miscarriages, etc. Also, children born to such parents often have genetic defects and diseases. So, the list of hazards can be on and on because tobacco ideally impacts many of your organ systems. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, when we were talking, I realized that I may not know how much percentage or how it impacts all that, but we all the time, anywhere you go, you will, any movie you go, you see advertisements about it. So even children, adults, everybody is watching it. So do you think there is a need to increase awareness about the hazards of tobacco?
Um, just a second. So, in my opinion, for example, if this was say around 10 years back, and we would tell a paralytic patient that the cause why this happened to you, why now you are bedridden, is because of your tobacco. It's because of your past tobacco habit. When you would tell them to this 10 years back, it would be they would actually be shocked. But I did my tobacco habit was just a casual time pass thing, and I cannot imagine myself to be now bedridden for that. But today, it is not the same. Honestly, in my opinion, now there is enough of awareness regarding the tobacco hazards, especially because now most of the tobacco products they have a pictorial warning on the packet itself. Also, in theaters, there are these advertisements going on. In case if the actors are using any tobacco products, they have to put up a disclaimer of 20 seconds, etc. So, regarding the awareness, there is genuinely a lot of awareness already. However, still there is a widespread and a rampant increase in the addiction part of tobacco. Now it has crossed horizontally and vertically, probably all the limits. It is seen equally in the urban high-rise or in the poor slums. It is seen in the educated and the illiterate as well. Equally, as I mentioned, it is seen in males and females. So whether it is rich, poor, it has probably crossed all the boundaries. There is no such hindrance to this addiction. What I feel that why there is this increased consumption, it is not because of lack of knowledge of the awareness of the hazards of tobacco, but it is because of few other reasons. One of them, which I feel it plays a very significant role, is because it is very easily, conveniently, and cheaply available. For example, tobacco, cigarette, or a gutta packet is very cheaply single small packet available at every nook and nook of corners of the street with all the panwalas. There is one panwala on every street.
That's true.
Secondly, the nicotine addiction, the substance abuse or the addiction part of this is so high that it is very easy for people to get trapped.
Yeah. So once they get addicted, then they can't easily withdraw themselves from it, right? Are you trying to share something?
So it is very easy for people to get trapped into the addiction.
Yeah.
And last but not the least, that tobacco is a legally available product which has no such bans. And people now the taboo part is also gone. People openly say that okay, I am smoking. People, now because it is not allowed in certain buildings or in public places, they would stand out openly and start smoking.
Okay.
So it is the addiction which is increasing. The awareness, I believe, is now there enough.
Yeah. So, like you said rightly, the real models whom they consider as real models, also all the time you see them on screen and it feels like normal. It is normalized so often. Whenever a person is in stress, then immediately either they have to go pour out a bottle of whiskey or they have to, go for smoking. So these kind of things are promoted. Like if you are in stress, then take tobacco or alcohol. So it is being normalized, like
Yes.
you said. And similarly, even people working in BPOs, I see that when we travel at night, we see people who are young people coming out of BPOs. They are standing on the road, and while they're waiting for their vehicle to come and pick them up, all of them, you can see smoke all around, so much of it. And it is
Right.
so frightening because young boys and girls are working there. And it is like you said, it affects reproductive health. It is a young age and they do not realize any of this. So even though there is awareness, not exactly, people don't want to get into anything unpleasant. So the moment they see, they know, okay, okay, bad hair, but they don't want to know how exactly it is bad, how much it is bad. So people like to keep away from things that are unpleasant. They don't want to get into the nitty-gritties and the details and understand that, right? So that is
Right.
another issue. So even though there is awareness, that complete understanding that it is not just some information that is there hanging in the air, it is going to impact my life. That is not there. So the
Yes.
I also hear a lot about secondhand smoking and third hand smoking. Can you explain these, and if they are harmful, please explain how?
Sure. Please share this, right?
Yeah.
So, when you are not smoking, but you are inhaling smoke which has tobacco gases into it, that is called secondhand smoking. For example, if there is a husband and wife and the husband is smoking, the wife is not smoking. But if the smoking is happening in the bedroom and the smoke is circulating in the room and the wife is inhaling that same air, it is she is now the passive smoker. So you won't believe there are on an average 6 lakh deaths in India alone in a year only because of passive smoking.
Oh God.
Those who get infected usually go through either asthma or COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or many other lung diseases. They are more prone to tuberculosis or their immunity reduces, and there are many such lung issues that a passive smoker goes through. Third hand smoking. Imagine there is somebody who has smoked in this room and left an hour away. When I enter this room, I usually get that smell that someone has smoked here.
Yeah.
This is usually because of the invisible brew or the aerosol that is there in the air that contains either the gas or the tobacco particles that is there in the environmental air, or it has settled down in the environment around. And when a third person takes this smoke, that is called third hand smoking. There are many researches and evidence going on to prove that how much of an impact this third hand smoking gives it. I'll share with you a very interesting case that I came across just 2 years back in the pandemic, when there was this young couple who was referred to me for their tobacco cessation therapy. They had around 1.5 year old child. They both were into corporate. Because of the pandemic, they were working from home. They both were chain smokers. However, they would smoke in the living room only when the child is in the bedroom sleeping.
Okay.
And by the time he was around 9, 10 months old, they realized that he is having a lot of cough and skin rashes. At that age, we probably consider it's a very common thing for kids to for that infant to have cough and all that. So they just treated it, symptomatically. However, by the time the child was, between 1 to 1.25 year old, they realized that there is some needed developmental milestone. They went and spoke to the pediatric, who then took the medical history and certain other details, and realized that when the parents would smoke in the living room, all the smoke from the tobacco would settle down on the cushion, on the carpet, on the door handles, on the food, and everything that is there in the living room. When the child would get up and probably, be in the living room crawling and licking or taking everything in the mouth because of his teething issues, he was consuming the tobacco particles slowly and gradually. For our infant, the absorption level is really very high, and hence they observe that continuous inhalation or intake of these tobacco particles by the baby led to these delayed developmental milestones. So this high is the impact of tobacco, that even when it is settled in the environment, it does cause such problems. Right?
I have seen that somebody has smoked, say, 10 minutes before or 15 minutes before. And then when the person comes into the room, you feel the strong smell. So,
Yes.
does that also carry any
Yes.
danger of third hand or
Yes.
second hand
So
infection?
if you are
Third hand
repeatedly getting
smoking?
exposed to such things, if it's happening on a regular basis, then it does have an impact. For example, if there is somebody who is very old or whose lungs are already compromised, and if he is undergoing this repeated exposure, then it will start impacting him earlier.
Okay. Yeah. People don't realize how, to their own loved ones, they're causing this, right? And they're working for them, they're living for them, and then they cause this for their own family people. Now, we also see a lot about e-cigarettes, then hookah bars and vaping and all that. So, can you share some information about those, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, please share this, right? So hookah is a very classical example of uh, the first hand, second hand, and the third hand smoking happening together. So when you go in these hookah lounges, you would see that obviously the person himself is smoking. There are other 10 tables where people are smoking, and the smoke from their pipes are also into the air. And the same gases and the tobacco particles get settled down in the dishes, the plates, the spoons, and every food and everything around. So hookah is a classical example where all these three kind of smoking is happening together. I hope this is enough to highlight the fact that hookah is much more dangerous than cigarette alone. Also, if you see a person who is smoking cigarettes, he would be on an average smoking it for 10 minutes is one session, which is approximately 10 to 15 puffs. On the contrary, in a hookah lounge, people sit for a minimum of 1 hour and take at least 100 to 150 puffs. So the amount or quantity of tobacco and nicotine that they are taking is really very high. The charcoal that is used for heating the tobacco, which is in the flavor, also causes a lot of inflammatory changes in the body, and it also releases carbon monoxide. So hookah is definitely much more harmful than cigarette itself. Electric and e-cigarettes and vaping, they both are electronic versions of cigarette. The only difference is that the e-cigarette or the vapes, the tobacco is liquefied and combustion is happening with the help of batteries. And the only difference between e-cigarette and vaping is that e-cigarette is usually a one-time use, and vapes, they usually have a rechargeable batteries or batteries which can be which can be replaced, and also the tobacco liquid which is there, it is refillable with different kind of flavors and all. However, these are all mere, as I mentioned, advertisement gimmicks by the tobacco lobby to help and push this tobacco new fancy products to the younger generation, so that they get into, or should I rather say, so that they become their permanent customers once they are trapped into this addiction. Thank you.
It's really so many things, in the garb of fashion, people do it and they do not realize that it is taking them downhill. And then I hear people saying that I have cut down my consumption of smoking by half. I do it very less frequently. Is that okay? I don't have to, if I don't quit completely and I only cut it down, is it okay? This is another question.
People who tend to smoke less frequently usually tend to smoke more harder, because the nicotine demand that is there by the brain is going to remain constant, or it is going to only increase. So such people, they tend to puff in a little more harder, so that because they know they are going to get it a lesser number of times, and hence they keep on consuming it more harder and harder. Also, this is just like asking that if I jump from the fifth floor or I jump on the 50th floor, it is the same thing. The poison is going to work. It's going to do its work for sure. And
Yes.
believe me, nicotine has such a triple level of dependency. It has a physical, a psychological, and a social dependency or an addiction. The tolerance and the dependency on this substance is so high that it is going to be very difficult for you to, in fact, reduce or stop it over there. You are gradually going to increase your consumption for sure. So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, already the diseases, the nasty diseases or the hazards that I mentioned previously, are anyways waiting for you, even if you're cutting your consumption to half. So my advice would be go no more than zero.
Completely go out. That's it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the only doubt, right?
Absolutely. Now, we also talk about mild cigarettes, light cigarettes, filtered cigarette, low tar cigarette, and all that. So, are they safe?
So, as soon as this awareness was happening all around the world that tobacco is hazardous, it is bad for health, it is bad for health, the tobacco lobby came up with an idea.
Hmm.
Let's give them a healthy, the healthy version of cigarette, and that is how they, introduce these low filter, low tar, or slim, or whatever new names that they came up with. However, uh, the content of tobacco or the nicotine never changed.
Okay.
It never changed. They only pretended that we have put a filter. This filter only helped to kind of filter the tobacco particles, which then gave the consumer a very smooth drag or consumption. So it was never that these are the healthier option or the safer option. These are just advertisement gimmicks or marketing strategies. Yeah.
Oh, God. So, there is actually business is only thinking about business and money. There is no conscience there. Now, only
Correct.
we have to take care of ourselves. So, please
Yes.
give our viewers best tips to quit tobacco, because there are people who are asking about, like chain smokers. What do you have to say about them? So, please share some important tips, good tips that they can get out of this habit.
So people or patients usually ask me that when is the best time? After how much tobacco consumption you think I should quit, or what
God.
what is the safe level or something like that. So whenever somebody asks me that when to quit, so I tell them you had the two best chances. The first when you started, and the second is now. It
Absolutely.
is always now that is the right time to quit tobacco. So, to all our viewers, in case if you decide to quit, you have to first set a quit date, which should be no longer than 7 to 10 days. You can't tell me I'll quit after 3 months. No. So it has to be within 7 to 10 days. In these 7 to 10 days, what you need to do is number one, remove all the tobacco products from your environment. It can be an ashtray, it can be packets of gutka, it can be cigarettes, hiding here and there in the car, in the office, in the home, in the corners. You have to remove all these tobacco products. Also, you have to inform your family and your friends. Why family? Is because family support is going to be very important, because 80% of the consumers are, or 80% of people who quit are going to undergo a little bit of withdrawal symptoms like irritation, aggression, headache, tension, or something like that. It is the family that is going to support you for all this or take care of you. So it is very important to inform the family that I have taken this decision to quit, and in case if I go through this phase, please do help me and support me. Why you have to inform your friends is because, as I mentioned previously, it was the peer pressure that dragged you into this. So now you call them and tell them that I have decided to quit. In case if you have plans to drink or smoke or something, please keep me out of it. For I would, because I would like to now quit permanently. So it is very important to tell them upfront. It will also hit their guilt somewhere, because this company, the company also starts thinking that, okay, we also have to think in this direction. So also you have to write down your coping strategies. By this I mean that there are two things that are going to happen to you once you quit. One is craving, and the other is withdrawal symptoms. So first I'll talk about craving. Cravings are urges to consume tobacco at that very moment. However, let me tell you a few facts about cravings. Be it any craving, the brain is patterned and tuned in such a way that any craving is going to last for not more than 15 to 20 minutes. I'll give you two very routine examples for you to
15 to 20
understand.
minutes or seconds?
15
Minutes.
to 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're very hungry, your hunger is at a peak. However, you are in some in some setup where it is just not possible for you to eat for an hour, for the next 1 hour. in that case you will feel hungry for 15-20 minutes, like very hungry. However, as that half an hour passes by, you will realize that you are not more that much hungry, or not hungry at all.
Yeah.
We usually tell that ab meri bhook mar gayi.
Yeah.
That is because that craving of food by the brain, it stays for 15-20 minutes, and then it most probably vanishes off in 30 minutes.
Wow.
Similarly, it is there for sleep. Suppose you have a pattern of taking an afternoon nap every day. However, today you have to go somewhere out, and hence you are not being able to sleep. So you feel sleepy at that, at that particular time. But if you don't sleep for 15-20 minutes, you'll be a little bit, yawny and all. But you don't sleep, and after half an hour, you will not be sleeping.
Fully weak. Yes.
That craving of the sleep by the brain is gone. The same applies to nicotine or tobacco or smoking. The craving has to be handled only for that 15-20 minutes. And hence, World Health Organization WHO has a very nicely put up methodology to distract yourself, divert yourself, or drink lot of water, or you have to deeply meditate. You have to just delay this craving for 20 minutes. This can be done in a lot of different ways depending upon your personality or whatever you like. It can be customized as per your needs. You can read a book nowadays, or read a newspaper. Nowadays, people watch web series all the time. They are hooked onto WhatsApp for 20 minutes. Watch a YouTube channel, watch the VK show. And there are many such things. Watch television,
Distract
phone.
yourself somehow from
Distract yourself.
this.
Just phone your friend. How 20 minutes will pass by, you will not even realize.
Yeah.
So these are the ways, even deeply meditating, doing yoga, drinking
Wonderful.
water, taking deep breaths. These are
Going for a
all
walk.
proven methods of, calming down your brain to, come back to normalcy and not have that craving of the bad substance. So this is regarding the craving. However, there are withdrawal symptoms which happen to 80% of them. These withdrawal symptoms are at its peak in the initial 5 days, which then gradually taper down, and in 2-3 weeks they almost vanish off. Withdrawal symptoms can be irritation or getting angry, aggressive behavior. A few of them will have constipation, gas, headache, and all such things. These are very easily manageable symptoms, which you can get sorted with your general physician. So you have to know for yourself before you quit that there are going to be withdrawal symptoms and there are solutions for it. How are you going to cope up with your cravings? Also remember that there are times where there will be a relapse, there will be a slip, but there is never giving up. You have to keep trying again, never give up. Also, most important, I would say that take professional help for number one, counseling, which compounds to almost 80% of the treatment, followed by nicotine replacement therapies, or there are pharmaceutical drugs also which help to manage or help to de-addict. So taking professional help will really help you to successfully de-addict from tobacco on a long-term basis. Thank you.
Yeah. And this hint which you gave was very helpful. I must tell you, this 20 minutes or the maximum 30 minutes craving is something, such a beautiful tip that you gave, that it is only that much time that you got to see that you're away from that, and then you are safe. So every day you can try to do this each time it comes up. Do some activity, go and meet a friend. If you're in the office, go talk to somebody or get involved in some work, or take a book and read, or go for a walk. So many things we can do just to distract ourselves from this, and
Yes,
that is it.
yes. You can
Amazing,
become the favorite.
amazing. That's a very good tip that you gave. I'm very sure that this is doable for many people, provided they have that will that I must come out of this. That's very important. And another thing, like you said, sharing with family friends helps a lot, because that is when family and friends, you said it right. So please, let's do it together. So
Yes,
they are
correct.
willing to go along with you for a walk. They are willing to sit with you and watch a serial, because they understand that you are trying to get out of it, and they need,
Yes.
you need company. So that also helps a lot. Beautiful tips. I think somebody had asked about electronics, smoking, Isaiah Swami, but already we discussed this, right? E-cigarettes is the same, right? Yes.
Yes.
So I also heard about nicotine replacement therapy. What is that and how does it help? Does it help at all?
Yes. So, to make you understand how does nicotine replacement therapy work, let me tell you that cigarettes or any form of tobacco products, they actually have 4,000 chemicals in it. Out of 4,000, 200 of them are poisonous chemicals. Those like acetate or cadmium or those used in rat poisons or formaldehyde and such chemicals, out of which there are 70 of them which are carcinogenic, which are cancer
Yeah.
producing. Uh, However, in this entire composition, it is only nicotine which, because of which you get addicted to this tobacco. Although the disease or the nasty ailments are brought in by these other chemicals, the addiction part is because of the nicotine.
Right.
And hence, what nicotine replacement therapy does is it attends to your craving of the brain, because the brain only needs nicotine. It is craving only for the nicotine, because when the nicotine is, when nicotine reaches the brain, it releases a chemical called as dopamine, because of which you feel very good, very, that high, happy, high feeling, and you are craving for it. And hence, we only need to probably manipulate the brain's craving of nicotine. And hence, what nicotine replacement therapy does is it removes or deletes all these harmful chemicals which are causing harm to the body. And we only give nicotine in a controlled and a low dose. Nicotine replacement therapies, they work only if they are used appropriately. I have many patients who come to me who have already tried quitting in the past and with the help of nicotine gums. However, uh, they do not use the nicotine gums appropriately, and then they end up having headache and nausea and vomiting, and hence they think that it is not possible for me to quit. That thought is then probably so deeply impregnated in them that it is not possible to quit. However, when they come across some disease, then that is the only time they take a u-turn and think, okay, let me try to quit. So when they come to me, the most of these people. So we were talking about awareness about tobacco hazards. Fortunately or unfortunately, every panwala who sells cigarette and tobacco products also sells nicotine gums. So people, casually buy it from these panwalas or any hook and corner. They take it and they start chewing like a chewing gum. That is the wrong way of using nicotine gum. The name is nicotine gums, not nicotine chewing gums. The correct way of using nicotine gums is to chew it 2-3 times in your mouth, and there is a tingling taste of the gum that is released. As soon as you get that taste, you park the nicotine gum between your teeth and the cheeks. Only when you again get a craving, you bring it between your teeth and you chew it only 2 to 3 times. What people do is they keep chewing, and then there is a release of very high amount of nicotine in one go, because of which patients get headache, they get vomiting, they get acidity, they get nausea and stuff like that. And hence the correct way of using it is very important. The method which is used for nicotine gums is called chew and park. So you chew 2-3 times and park it. If there is a craving, you chew for 2-3 times and then you again park it. Similarly, there are other replacement, nicotine replacement drugs like nicotine lozenges, pastilles, inhalers, sprays, etc., and nicotine patches. Sometimes we give it to the patients in combination. Also, the type of nicotine replacement therapy that we use, the type, the frequency, the dosage, also it all has multiple factors depending upon the consumption of the patient. What is he consuming? Is he doing smokeless tobacco? Is he stuffing the tobacco? Is he doing cigarette smoking? How frequently is he smoking? What is the reason why he is into smoking? If it is constipation, if it is for some other reason. So all this is calculated, and then nicotine replacement therapies are given either a single one or in combination, and the dosages is then decided. So I therefore told that taking professional help to start using nicotine replacement therapies would be a very good way to expect a good effect out of that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, can this nicotine replacement become a sort of an addiction? Because again, they don't know how to use it and they keep on chewing it. They are taking large quantities of nicotine. So, is there a danger that it can become an addiction?
So if used
Jump from
appropriately,
the frying pan into the fire.
no. So if used appropriately, as per what the doctor has told you, nicotine doses are usually very low. They are controlled doses, and also we gradually taper it down. They are available in different milligrams like 21, 14, and 7. So we gradually taper it down. Also, these doses are much lower than what you get out of cigarette smoking or hookah and stuff like that. So it is just not possible. However, in very severe cases, we I have been prescribing my patients nicotine replacement therapies for as long as 6 to 8 months. So even if it is going on for as long as 8 months, it is completely okay, because as I mentioned to you, those 4,000 chemicals have been removed off. So now there is no side effect happening. It is just that the brain is being tuned to not getting nicotine. We are slowly bringing it to a lower level. So there is no addiction to nicotine then, because if it is used appropriately and professionally, tapered down.
Yeah. There are some people who argue that my grandfather was smoking cigarettes for 40 years and 50 years and he never got cancer. Why are you telling me that I could get cancer? I'm after all having the same gene. So what do you have to tell them?
So it's a proven fact that 50% of tobacco users are going to die very early, because there are so many list of diseases and disabilities that tobacco brings in. Regarding cancer, I would like to mention that I agree, cancer may or may not happen to you. Cancer has many modifiable and non-modifiable causes. Modifiable causes are tobacco, alcohol, obesity, and non-modifiable are viral or infection or genetics. By genetics, I mean when we get genes from our parents, we also get predisposed to certain diseases. For example, in the Indian gene, we are more predisposed to diabetes. That way, in case if you receive a gene of cancer from your parents, they might not be having it. But in case if you are giving an adjunct or a catalyst like tobacco, you are definitely going to have it. This is same like telling, suppose there are two cars and two drivers, one is drunk and one is not drunk. The probability of the one who is drunk and going to have an accident is much more higher
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
the one who is not drinking. And this gamble is like a 50% probability, and that too with your life. Are you ready to take that risk just giving me an argument for a cigarette or a tobacco product? Do you think it is worth the argument? No, not at all. So already, with the pandemic that has gone, we have realized how our immunity is an asset to us. We
Absolutely.
have just, in this bio war that just happened, we are aware that immunity played a big role. Even if you don't get cancer, what if you just get a brain stroke, you get paralysis at the age of 40, and you're lying down in your bed for the next 40 years? Do you think those 40 years of staying in the bed was worth those few puffs, those few moments of freedom? Absolutely not. So that argument is something which I would not do.
Yeah. That is true. People who want to, get out of something, they will always give some reason and they will try to, wiggle themselves out of a reason why they should stop it, right? So, what is logic? You explained very clearly. There is also smokeless tobacco, right? Where people only stuff and chew and spit away the tobacco. They don't emit smoke. So in that case, are the hazards of tobacco null and void? What would you say to that?
So, honestly, tobacco has been hazardous right from its own birthplace to its own deathbed. So, let me take you through this journey. That when tobacco is a commercial crop. However, once you grow tobacco in that soil, the soil becomes highly degraded, and also it becomes infertile and unfit to grow any other crop over there. That is the impact of a tobacco crop. Moving forward, to cure each tobacco or to heat it, the amount of wood that goes into curing this tobacco is really very high, which is actually creating deforestation and global warming. Other than that, even the emissions that are seen from the manufacturing factories of tobacco is really very high. In fact, if you see any tobacco farm, there is absolutely no scarecrow or no fencing around the around the tobacco farms. The reason being, there is no bird in the air and no cattle on the ground that is going to feed on the tobacco leaves. I think that is nature's way of telling us that this is not something
Yes.
meant or fit for consumption. In also, the farmers who pluck the tobacco leaves, are also laborers who roll the dry leaves or the tobacco leaves to form bidi, to make bidi. Both of these, they get something called as green tobacco sickness, in
What is
which
the
just
green
before
tobacco
the,
sickness?
yeah, that is the
Okay.
term given to this disease,
Hmm.
wherein they get skin rashes, they get nausea, vomiting, sometimes dizziness, headaches, just by touching, just by repeatedly touching these tobacco leaves and the absorption of tobacco through the skin.
God.
Also, smokeless tobacco, as you asked me, is more hazardous in my opinion than smoking, because usually if you see smokers, as I mentioned previously, it is just 10 minutes of smoking. If you see a person with smokeless tobacco, he'll be stuffing his tobacco for hours together. For 2 hours he'll stuff it, and the moment he thinks he has to remove it, the other one is ready. And in fact, I know patients who tell me that they stuff tobacco for 24 hours, even during sleep. They wake up in the middle of the night only to change their pack. So, the juice even if you're not swallowing it, if you're just chewing or stuffing it, the juice that mixes with the saliva goes into the stomach, then goes into your bloodstream and circulates in the entire body, and hence affecting, or has the probability of affecting, all the systems of your body. So, by the virtue of the entire body system being involved, and the time for which you are into this tobacco consumption is very high in smokeless tobacco. In fact, India is the number one consumption in smokeless tobacco, accounting to approximately 67% consumption of the entire world. And hence, unfortunately, India also is a global hub for oral cancer cases, because people who stuff it in the mouth have a constant contact with tobacco for I don't know how many hours. So, these statistics prove enough that smokeless tobacco is more hazardous.
Yeah. Knowing that tobacco causes so much harm, what are the steps that government authorities are taking? Other than stipulating that in the cigarette packets in very small letters, smoking is injurious to health should be written, or on the film it should be shown. What other steps are they taking?
So, ideally, they have a law known as Kotka law, which is consumption of tobacco product amendments law. They are The law says that you cannot sell or offer tobacco products to anybody below the age of 21.
Okay.
Also, there should be no tobacco selling retail
But do they
supply.
check age when they sell it? Do they see your Aadhaar card or age के लिए क्या देखते हैं?
That's the problem, I would say. They have these laws, but almost none of them are followed so strictly by the local vendors, or probably there is no authority who is supervising it, or putting up a stringent action over the legal bindings that are not followed. Otherwise, the law says that they are not supposed to sell. There should be no vendor selling tobacco in a radius of 100 yards from any educational institution.
Okay.
Also, there should be no advertisement of any tobacco products in any form, neither in the form of a banner, nor on television, no radio station, no internet, no social media, nothing. There should be no advertisement at all. Also, smoking is banned in public places like public offices or railway station auditoriums or theaters, cinemas. In fact, the government has a law where in restaurants or hotels or airports, they are supposed to have a dedicated separate smoking lounge, so that the other people are not the victim of passive smoking. So these are certain laws that have been made, but I completely agree that they are not followed to the T.
Yeah, our real heroes, they say that they don't intend to promote smoking, but then by their very nature of their smoke, by their being heroes, that people follow them, people do it, right? It's not
There
about
is,
them saying what it
yeah.
is.
In fact, there's a lot of surrogate advertisement, where the name is used. There are so many award shows, where the sponsorer is highly marketed. So all
Absolutely.
those things are going on. Yes.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, what should be done to curb this silent killer?
I think with the, as I mentioned, there is enough awareness. There are these pictorial warnings that, in fact, that this is one good thing which the government has done. The pictorial warnings that are supposed to be on the tobacco products. Initially, they were supposed to occupy 45% of the packet. Now it has been raised that the pictorial warning should occupy 80 to 90% of the entire packaging.
Wow. Okay.
So, because of that, I think um, there is enough awareness, there is this pictorial warning, there is enough presentation of the problem that yes, tobacco is a problem, it should not be taken, it is hazardous. This is what I think we have pretty fairly achieved successfully. However, we did not present the solution for people who have already into addiction. As I mentioned that there are many, around 20,000 clicks on Google every day, how to quit tobacco, how to quit smoking. However, we have not presented the solution to them. They just know कि हाँ cancer होता है, but now they are already into a disease called addiction. To bring them out of those shackles or the trap of addiction is something which they won't be able to do. It is unfair to expect them to do merely on the basis of their willpower, because it is actually a disease which involves neurochemical changes in the brain, and hence a professional help is required. So I believe what should be done now is the medical fraternity needs to be highly trained, including the doctors, nurses, general physician, dentists. They should be highly trained to help people de-addict, because it is them. When a doctor says, you have a different perspective instead of when a mother says or a wife says. So if the medical fraternity is trained appropriately how to take them through the de-addiction process, it would be very easily available and accessible solution for the public.
Yeah.
Also, now there have been helplines and quit lines, but rather than that, if there are more number of tobacco cessation clinics where the patient can easily go talk it out and understand how he can be de-addicted. Also, there can be more of group counseling meeting centers like those of nicotine anonymous organization, which share their hope and experience and recovery through this 12-step process. Also, as you just mentioned, that there are so many laws and rules that the government has set, but they are not being followed. Even if these laws are successfully followed, there will be a drastic change in the consumption and the addiction as well. So there should be an authority level specifically designated for this particular cause. For example, when I go in a public space, in a public place, and I see someone is smoking, what do I do about it? I know it is wrong. What do I do about it? Had I known that there is this particular authority where I have to go and report, then it would be easier for people to, take it up to a mass level.
Right.
So a proper authority level is needed to curb this or take law to follow these laws and rules that the government has set. Thank you.
I also feel probably insurance can also be roped in, and insurance for people who have got this addiction and who get into these problems will not be available, then that could also be a restraint on those people,
Yes.
right? So various bodies have to come together really with the keen interest as to stop this. If you
Right.
don't look at it as a business proposition, like Isaiah Swami had written, that it's excise duty that we are losing out. If you look at it only as a business, then nothing is going to work. But
Yeah.
if you look at it in the long term, how many hours of productivity are lost, and how much money is lost because of the treatment for these people, and how many good young productive people are we losing, definitely the loss is more than the gain. So we should not look at the a benefits that these few organizations get, but should look at the real national interest. So, like you
Right.
said, we talked about this end game, right? You said that this is there is a history to it, and it started. And what is your take on it? The end game initiative. Can you talk about that? How it started, and how what can we do about it?
So, tobacco endgame policy is aimed at rapid and permanent reduction in the consumption of tobacco products. So, this is a movement that is started few years back in many different countries across the globe. First, let me tell you why did it start? Exactly, about what you said, that nations realized that there is a very big burden of budget being, diverted to the medical expense of diseases that are caused by tobacco. To get rid of this burden of the budget, they have taken this bold step of tobacco endgame. It is also called as generational endgame in few countries. This is because it is aimed at producing or coming up with a smoke-free generation, or a generation that where the smoking is barely seen. What they plan to do is, or what their goal is, to reduce smoking prevalence or consumption of tobacco to as less as 5%. 5% is their first target, and the second target is to bring it down to less than 2% of consumption that is there as of now. Uh, they have also set a timeline for this. Different countries have different timelines. In fact, New Zealand being at the first in the race in implementation and the deadline, they have thought of achieving this goal by the year 2025. There are many other
Right.
countries.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are many other countries that are also either trying to amend the bill or pass the bill, or they are in different steps of the procedure. Countries like India, US, UK, Sweden, Finland, Canada, Malaysia, Bangladesh, they are already in the process of doing of following this policy, and this has inspired many other countries in the world as well. So mainly, the there are three strategies in achieving this endgame policy. The first is de-nicotinization, by which I mean that they are going to reduce the amount of content of nicotine in the tobacco product. This will help to reduce the addiction part. So this is a very smart move, I would say, that as I mentioned, it is only the nicotine which is trapping you in this addiction.
Right.
So what they have decided, that all the tobacco products will gradually have a reduced amount of nicotine. Second strategy is that they are going to curb down or reduce very drastically. By drastically, I mean almost 90 to 95% of retail shops selling tobacco will be stopped. This is
Wonderful.
done, yeah. So this is done to avoid, as I had mentioned in the start, that easy availability and convenient availability of tobacco is the major reason why consumption is increasing. So they are
Yes.
going to curb this, because if 90 to 95% of the vendors are gone, the retail shops are gone, it is going to be very difficult to find one at every corner.
Yeah.
The
But
third
in
is
those countries, tobacco lobby and all is not there. How come they are able to
the
sit in
tobacco
this bill?
lobbies are opposing in all the countries. In
Mhm.
all the countries, I'll come back to that as well. What is the biggest argument that they are presenting? It's very funny. So the third strategy that is going to be included in this end game policy is that that there will be a complete ban on the sale of tobacco to people who are born after the year 2009. This 2009 that I mentioned, the year 2009, has been decided, say, by New Zealand. For different countries, it is different. For few, it is 2005. For few, it is 2007. So those who are born after 2009 will not be sold tobacco forever. So that they don't have this perspective. Once you take it, you understand the I want it, it gives me that happy high feeling. I want it more. However, they're going to completely stop the sale of tobacco products to generation to the future generation. So all the countries have slight changes in all of these, but the main basic strategies remain the same. For example, the Bangladesh has considered 2040 as its timeline to become tobacco free. As I mentioned, the year 2009 is for New Zealand. I think
It
Malaysia
is
has
very
a,
far, right? Another two generations will go. 10
yeah,
years.
but then it is going to be a gradual process. It is
Yeah.
such a huge market, and it has so many consumers that it is going to be very
Yes, so
difficult.
slowly.
But honestly speaking, I am happy that this is happening
At
because it
least
has
that
to
is they are
start.
doing. They have set up a deadline.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So even if they've started half is done. Well begun is half done. So probably we
Yes.
can see a better generation or a better future in the form of environment or less diseases. So that will be a better place to live in. So
Correct.
you were asking me about tobacco lobbies. Tobacco lobbies have so as I mentioned, there has been a delay in the amendment of the bill or passing the bill. This this delay or these hindrances are exactly because of the tobacco lobbies in different parts of the country or different parts of the world. So
Right.
the best argument that they have put is that even diabetes and obesity is an epidemic throughout the world, across the globe. So why don't you ban sugar and cheese as well? Why are you just targeting us?
Oh
This
God.
is the argument that they have been giving, that uh, we are just doing manufacturing of
But there is a
small.
difference there, right? Diabetes is not because of the consumption of sugar.
Yeah, yeah,
Consumption of sugar doesn't suit a person for whom already there is a problem. That's it. Not
right.
everybody has that issue.
So
So,
there are many such different arguments and different oppositions that are there, of different organization, tobacco lobbies in different parts. There are in some places it is politics, in some places it is corruption. It is a different equation everywhere in different countries. But at least these countries which I mentioned, they have at least started thinking over it. Fortunately, New Zealand was, I believe, the first country that has passed the bill last July, in July 2022. They have just passed the bill that they will start implementing this as soon as possible. In Malaysia, they had tried to pass the bill. It had passed around 2 to 3 amendments, and then again, there was hindrances by the opposition, by the tobacco lobbies, and it is still in the process. However, I think it is only at that mass level, if you bring some change, there is going to be a possible impact in a good direction. Otherwise, trying to hold each and everyone and tell them don't smoke, it is difficult to do that and try to bring them out of the addiction. It is better if the best way is to stop. Now is the time to handle it at the demand, at the supply end, and not try to control it at the supply end. So
yeah.
if you control the tobacco manufacturing, distribution, and production, it is stopped, or it is rather than more easily. It can be said like prevention is better than cure. It is better to not have it in the market rather than let people have it and then try to de-addict them. That's a long procedure because the amount of consumers now are so high. It is a much more bigger epidemic than COVID. Believe me.
Yeah. Got it. There are a few questions here which I will just read out. This question I think you've already answered. How does one cope with withdrawals? How long do withdrawals last? So already you said it's lasts for about 2 to 3 days, right?
Yeah, so 5 to 6 days, the withdrawals are at its peak, and
Hmm.
then gradually the withdrawal symptoms start, start
Tapering off.
fading. However, in a span of 3 to 4 weeks, the withdrawal symptoms are completely vanished. The withdrawal symptoms can be more severe in few cases, and in few cases they might not be at all. But 80% of them undergo withdrawal symptoms. How to cope up depends upon what kind of withdrawal symptoms you have. In some people, as I mentioned, have headache, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, constipation, aggressiveness. They can be dealt with symptomatic relief. Just if you have a headache, you can. If you don't want to take a medicine, you can do yoga, meditation, drink more water, take deep breaths, or finally take something which helps with your headache, a medicine or so, and consult your doctor for that.
Lovely. So there is another question. What are the tips for not smoking again after a long period of being away from cigarette or
Yes,
smoking for a long time?
I did mention that always there are chances of relapse and slip. So I'll
Yeah.
tell you what is the difference between relapse and slip. Uh, Many a times people, when they're highly motivated, just because someone in the family got a heart attack or a paralysis, then the other members of the family, it can be a distant family or friends, they get a little bit alert. Ki, nahi, nahi, this can happen to me also. Let me quit. So they quit instantly. However, the maintenance part is something which is of the utmost importance, because the reasons why you had actually started tobacco was stress, and nowadays stress is going to be there at each and every step of life. So when the stress comes back, they always think the easy way of having the relief, and that in their dictionary is only smoking. So it is important for them to have a coping strategy, that whenever there will be a relapse or whenever there will be a slip, you follow the same quit system. The cravings that I told you, try to delay each craving only by half an hour. Each craving has to be postponed or delayed, or divert your mind, distract yourself. Keep drinking water or take deep breaths whenever you get those cravings. Suppose by chance, you had a slip. Slip is like just once in 6 months you had one cough, just because you couldn't control yourself. That is slip. Relapse is something where you start all over again and you keep
Again.
on doing it repeatedly. In either of the cases, you should not give up. You should keep following the same strategy to delay the consumption, or to kind of divert the craving for 15 to 20 minutes. Or else, in case if the craving is really very high, you can again switch back to nicotine replacement therapies.
Right. So better consult a doctor in that case, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Professional help will be really very significant.
Yes. So here there is a question. Can we say that consumption of tobacco is a dependency and an unmanageability originating from a defective thinking and a character defect? So do you think that you would look at it like that? It's a character
Consumption
defect.
of tobacco is, I believe that the substance itself has a characteristic, that there is a lot of dependency. I'll tell you how gradually you get trapped in this particular shackle of addiction. When you start smoking, say, what happens is, suppose this is your baseline of your normal state of mind. When you start smoking, there is a very happy high feeling, where you start feeling high, and now your normal state of mind is from year to year. Okay,
Right.
you are feeling very good over here because of the release of dopamine. However, when you stop smoking, this graph comes down. Unfortunately, the graph doesn't stop at your normal mental state.
It
It
plummets.
further dips down. It further dips down, and hence you now are not in your normal mental state. You are slightly depressed when you are not smoking.
Got it.
Understood? Because
Got
this dip down is slightly more than your normal state.
it.
So
Below
what you
normal.
yeah. Now what you do, you start smoking again. So again, from this lower thing, you went up. However, you did not reach the same peak as the previous one, because now your starting point is not here. The starting point is here.
Right.
And hence, when you start consuming, now the high that you felt first time, you feel slightly less high. The same logic is applicable in alcohol. What happens is, you feel high, then people start taking, to feel the same high, people start taking two bottles
More.
instead of one bottle. And what
Yes.
do we tell them? कि यार तेरी तो बहुत capacity अच्छी है. No, this is what people
Exactly.
kind of pat them.
Yeah.
कि your capacity is very good.
You are able to hold it much better than I do.
दो बॉटल
Absolutely.
के बाद भी दो बॉटल के बाद भी यू आर नॉट हाई, यू आर एकदम नॉर्मल. मैं तो एक बॉटल में ही लुढ़क जाता हूँ. That is because your dependency is still low, his dependency is higher. He now needs two bottles to reach that same happy high level of that dopamine level, or the release of happy high hormones.
Oh God.
This keeps happening, and now from to reach that same happy high feeling, you start
Take
smoking
more.
3 cigarettes, 4 cigarettes, and in between the smoking, the dip down is so low that now you start feeling depressed when you're not smoking. And now, how do you relate that depression as? कि I am in stress. You don't realize it because you stopped
Because of
smoking.
the dependency, it's just become.
Yes, because
Yeah.
of the dependency, you went,
Down.
really low.
Right.
Regarding, a defective thinking or a character defect that was asked in the question,
Yes.
I can mention that there can be a genetic predisposability to getting addicted to nicotine or to tobacco. I
Right.
know people who, as I mentioned, there are 10-20% people who will not have withdrawal symptoms at all
Mhm.
once they 40 years of smoking, 40 years of chain smoking, immediately in one day they quit smoking and they have no withdrawal symptoms.
Oh God.
They are okay.
Amazing.
While there are few of them who have a bad time for as long as 10 months. So
Oh
the
God.
body response is different for different people.
Yes.
It cannot be exactly pinpointed to as a character defect.
Right. So whatever it may be, still I have got to give up. That is the kind of willpower a person needs to have, right?
Yes, yes,
You don't
yes.
give up on a disease, say cancer was somebody gets recovery within 2 chemos and somebody needs 15 chemos. So we never know, but you don't want to give up because you want to save your life,
Right.
right?
Only if you have that willpower, as I mentioned, it is not fair to only have the willpower. But willpower helps. Where I will try to make you understand that when you have to work towards your coping strategy, when you have to work towards your craving, when you have to work towards your withdrawal symptoms. Only if you have that willpower, you will work in all of these directions to make yourself as to de-addict yourself. So you have to work with efforts towards this, which comes with willpower. You have to have the dedication कि कुछ भी हो जाए, I have to stop, I have to quit.
Yeah. Absolutely. Here is another question that is many people are in it's all in urban setup. 80% of our population is in rural areas. What can be done to address it? So probably he's talking about the availability of services for getting rid of this habit is available more in the cities and not so much in the villages. So what do we do? What solutions?
Services, by that you mean tobacco cessation services?
Yeah, tobacco session service or maybe consultants or doctors
So
for getting
nowadays
rid of this addiction.
there are virtual and online consultations. Post pandemic, everything has gone digital.
Yeah.
I
And
am
villages
sure.
have adopted digital technology like anything. Now, we worked with several villages with farmers from Rotary Club, and they took the entire training through Zoom. They knew how to do the new methods because we started them on just a new crop just before pandemic started, and in the villages, luckily, COVID had not spread. But we wanted to train them on what kind of irrigation strategy they should use, how much water they should pour, what kind of fertilizers, everything. But all
Yes.
of them attended 100% attendance. Only one person had to go and tell each one of them, and one person was enough. And the entire village, the news spread like wildfire, and they all did it so beautifully. So
Yes.
they are very smart actually. They need not understand how the computer works, but they know which buttons to press and where to sit and listen and understand. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. So yeah, until as I mentioned in what we should be doing more to have more de-addiction is the best way is to have more trained medical fraternity in the form of doctors or nurses, more tobacco cessation clinics. I completely agree that it might be difficult in rural areas to reach out that much, but as Girija mentioned, they have become more smart. It is a digital era, and WhatsApp
And
video
everybody has a
calling.
phone now.
Yes,
All
everyone
farmers
has a
even. Yeah.
smartphone. Yes, I
Smartphone.
have been doing a lot of virtual consultation for tobacco de-addiction very frequently, and I think it's not a very rare thing. There are many consultations now happening beyond the tobacco or be it any medical problem. There are virtual
Yeah.
consultations happening now all over the world.
When we introduced demonetization, everybody said, "How will the whole world go digital?" But you see, even in small villages, digital
Yes.
transactions are higher, so high as 80-85%, which is so very nice. So the world has changed. In a lighter vein, consumption of tobacco is good business for dentists. The users will come for cleaning of stains or teeth. Oh, wonderful comment. But we don't want that business at the cost of safety of people, right? Yes. International packaging. Oh, okay. He says international packaging of cigarettes do not carry ugly photographs. What can be done to curb such practice in India? But why shouldn't we have ugly photographs? Why shouldn't we show 80% visual should be about it so that people get about know about
So
it?
packaging in India for sure has 80% of a pictorial warning of different types of hazards that tobacco causes. I have a very funny story to tell you here. There is this one patient of mine who used to frequently go and buy cigarette boxes. So once, most of the time, the pictorial warning was of a cancer, of a patient who is having some cancer, and it is shown on the picture. There was one this box that he bought was having, actually I had it in my slide. Can you just share this one slide for me? Yeah, can you share the slide, Girisha?
Yeah, I'm just sharing. Yeah.
So there is this one particular pictorial warning wherein the cigarette is turned like this, which indicates erectile dysfunction. So this is the box that he got one day from the vendor. So when he saw that, he kind of understood, okay, this is what can happen to me because of smoking. I can have this sexual problems. He went back to the vendor and he told that don't give me this, give me the one on which there is a photo of the cancer. Don't give me this. So people are
So,
crazy.
so
They
that
don't.
that much impact it has.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
So
Wonderful.
people do understand. However, they work according to their convenience. They want to be in their comfort zone, or not. Only when probably some disease or defect comes into the family or onto their own, they realize that it was not worth it.
There is another question. Can meditation kill? Can I remove the slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay. There is another question. Can meditation help?
Yes, it does. There have been many studies, researches, and evidence shows that meditation, deep breath, yoga, when done appropriately, regularly, with a good discipline, it does help to take away the cravings or manage the withdrawal symptoms. Because ultimately, it is the calmness of the mind that is required. That craving, the aggressiveness, these are all nature or the traits of the behavior of the person. The person behaves more aggressive. So if you meditate, you become more calm, composed, and you have the courage to probably say no. You have the courage to go through the withdrawal symptoms. There is going to be aggressiveness. You have to just pass that bad time. So yes, meditation definitely helps.
There is this person who's saying, I stopped smoking a few years back. After listening to the word cigarette, I feel like smoking again, only one, difficult to control. So, like she said, I think I would suggest that 20-30 minutes, just hold on and then it'll pass. It'll pass, right?
Correct,
So,
correct, absolutely right.
yeah. So here is again, right now, my mind is pushing me to smoke. Why difficult to control? My will is giving up. No, you can't. It is finally your decision, your life. Like she says, 30 minutes, hold on, do something else, and then you won't feel like it. Like she said.
Probably you can just repeat looking at our show again for half an hour, 40 minutes. Time will pass, the craving will pass again.
Yes, again and again, see the pictures, see how it can impact, how your own family will be affected. Then you won't do it again. Look at the pictures of your family. I think nothing else is needed, right? So, do you think such an endgame initiative will take precedence in India also? Is there any special organization talking about it with the government that we must set a deadline and work against this? Are we going to do this?
So at government level, there are many other NGOs also. There are organizations, including that includes doctors, researchers, and scientists who kind of gather the data and present it to the government. And there are many organizations that are involved in helping into this tobacco endgame policy. So there is a lot that is happening. It is just that probably sometimes the corruption, sometimes the huge population that India has, it takes time to implement something. So I am very optimistic that it will gradually happen for sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure that our government also will look at it. Like you said, we have to cohesively put data and consistently press for it. So there has to be public voice raised for it. I think people should be mobilized to ask for it. Rather than it coming from the government, why can't it come from citizens? Why can't it be a part of citizens' responsibility, right? So we can ask that, start this in our country. I think we must do that. Yeah. So Mehul Vyas, who has already written that I've had a narrow escape from cancer, though I was an addict. He has written schools should be made to take to cancer wards, kids and teenagers to cancer wards on field visits so that they know the truth and realize the consequences.
I think
Yes,
that's a
very
great.
often, we protect children from such scenes and we think we will not show them anything when there is anything unpleasant. But at times we think like that, but then they are seeing everything on all kind of fight scenes, blood, gory things, everything on games and everywhere. But what we need to show them really and discuss it with them, we are not doing it. So
Right.
probably the right person, they should be taken and shown so that they are not scared. The idea is not to frighten them, the idea is to educate them. So Mehul ji, yes, you are right, but that should be done with proper people who will do it. Is nicotine anonymous recommended? Is another question.
It's an organization which is in its probably infant stage. It's growing.
Infant stage. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So there are very few meetings. Many of them are held online. I
Hmm.
know their organization in India at least. They follow the same 12-step tradition that is followed by other anonymous organizations for alcohol, for narcotics, etc. But yes, they have a very good hand holding on a everyday basis where they share their experiences, they share hope, they share their recovery journey, and that is what helps one addict to help another addict to get de-addicted. So I think it is highly recommended. It kind of forms that group counseling kind of an atmosphere, and
Okay.
that everyday hand holding really helps.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Doctor. But before we close, I would just like to share a poem by Joe Romano on a smoking addict has written. Okay. Uh, you wake up in the morning coughing and choking as a direct result of cigarette smoking. You often sat around and ignorantly pretended you were unaware of all the people you offended. You got into the habit and would often reach out to shove another cigarette into your mouth. The Surgeon General, you shove another cigarette into your mouth. The Surgeon General often said, there is only one answer. The Surgeon General often said, there is only one answer, that if you continue to smoke, you're gonna get cancer. If you continue to smoke, you're gonna get cancer. You often thought this was a very big joke. You often thought this was a very big joke, and now we have become addicted to cigarette smoke. Every night you go to bed, your eyes are blood red, and a cigarette is the first thing that you grab when you crawl out of bed. When you try to give up smoking, you constantly fail because of your craving for another white coffin nail. Your cough will get croppy. It'll sound like a hack, but you'll keep buying cigarettes pack after pack. With your craving for these facts that you continuously crave, your one and only destiny is a very early grave. Your one and only destiny is a very early grave. Try to give up these facts. You know it isn't too late because you've already made and signed a contract with fate. It is too late, you may think, and you think that you already made it, signed a contract with fate. How many times did you really try to quit, only to find another cigarette in your mouth waiting to be lit? The people who grow tobacco, they are not your friend. They are preparing your life for untimely end. And the people who manufacture this deadly weed are only in business for the money, profit, and greed. The young and the innocent and the very weak, these are the victims these manufacturers seek. So, do you know where this smoking is leading? You, my smartass friend, it's leading you to a very early and untimely end. Do you know where this smoking is leading you To my smart ass friend, it's leading you to a very early and untimely end. It's high time we all stop this and work towards a healthy life. There are such professionals available, organizations like Rotary Club for Addiction Prevention is available, and there are several other organizations. So please reach out to them. We have to be there for each other. There is no stigma in calling out to somebody else for help. If you're drowning, yes, call for help because your life is valuable and you may save thousand others from such fall. So look at it like that. Today, I've gone through a very bad experience. You will be able to save so many others because your empathy is stronger. So don't look at yourself as a weak person. Look at yourself as a potential savior for thousands of people. That is my appeal to everyone who has taken cigarette and who's wondering, how do I give it up? Thank you so much. Please share this video with everyone who might be using cigarette or any tobacco product, and may not classify them as addicts, but still share it with everybody so that even those who are thinking of just smoking may stop it. Thank you, Dr. Neelam. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you so much
Thank,
for the upbeat and a fantastic poem. Fantastic. So nice to you. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Varun, for this opportunity. Thank you, viewers, for watching it with us. Please share this video so that our young population is free of this addiction. Thank you for all of you for joining and actively participating. Thank you so much. I'll end the broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you.